Hi everyone, I'm Mirella Ciobanu, lead editor with The Papers, and we are live at EIC 2026, the European Identity and Cloud Conference, where I'm about to talk with Dr. Angelika Steinacker, member and ambassador of Women in Identity, and we are going to talk about diversity and inclusion in digital identity. Hi Angelika.
Hi Mirella.
Nice to see you, and as I mentioned before, I am a follower of your work. I saw you for the last 3 editions at EIC, but before starting the interview, you revealed that you are one of the people that attended the initial edition. So
yes.
Take us back a bit and relate EIC also to Women in Identity and your professional background.
Okay, so my professional background, I'm a mathematician by education. And I then did a PhD in cryptography, and this brought me to security. And since then, I have worked in security a long time ago. Now I started with that one. And through various companies, I've worked over the last nearly 40 years then, and had the focus in the last 25 years on identity and access management. So much to my background. How did I get into the KuppingerCole conference? This was in 2005, 2006. There were some, I would say, groups who were discussing to streamline identity and access management processes. So to standardize processes. And there also Martin Kuppinger was one of the people there, and they, in 2007, there was then the very first KuppingerCole European Identity Conference. This was in Munich then, at that time in the Deutsche Museum, in their conference center. And I can remember this very vividly because when I cleaned up my study, I found the paper program from that conference with my notes on it. And so it's getting back to that one. And I've even met Cole, who has long retired. And over the years, I had been, I wouldn't say not at every KuppingerCole conference, but many of them. And really often as a speaker, and bringing in also what I learned from so in a day-to-day work, I'm an IAM consultant, more on enterprise identity and access management. And but I bring into it the views from my clients, what I learn, what I see there, but also some sort of research. So this is something what is, I would say, in my genes also, doing research. And especially now, since October, I'm an independent consultant and I work with clients. I have projects with clients, but I'm doing also really in my spare time, just for fun, I would say, some research together with a former colleague. And we publish papers even. And the last one had been published on Saturday. So,
oh, congrats.
It was on agentic AI and identity and access management, and really the dimensions for agent governance, which are purpose and intent, and they are different. And I will present on that on Thursday mornings.
Yeah. And relating to the part where you mentioned you are consulting, you are learning from with clients, and you are doing research. How do all this work relates also to Women in Identity and their mission? Because you are also an ambassador of this initiative.
Yeah, I'm an ambassador for the DACH region, which means Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I joined Women in Identity at a very early stage in 2018, when this was just a couple of months after Women in Identity had been founded, and Pamela Dingel from Microsoft was there, and also Barbara Mandl. She had been at that time the CISO at Daimler-Benz, and they introduced this newly founded organization. And also Kim Cameron was there, I would say, the god of the identities. And he was very supportive. He was also one of the initiators. And I was so, I thought this organization, this is exactly what I want to join. And so I joined at that time. It was relatively small at that time. But Barbara was also located in Munich, as I am. And together we grew up then the group here in DACH, and we are really active here. And the mission of Women and Identity is to make really digital identity more inclusive on that one. And I was, as I said, so my day-to-day work is enterprise, I am, but I think the digital identity and getting into this inclusive, to make it more inclusive is another angle of my work, which I think is so valuable, so that I support that. This is where I see that.
Yeah, we say all the time to make it more inclusive. What exactly is for you an inclusive digital identity solution or concept?
Yeah, this is a concept or a solution. It should be a solution. So a digital identity would be inclusive if it is working for everyone and not only for the majority. So that there are not people excluded due to maybe they are old, maybe they have a different color. We have that with biometrics. If you have a different skin color, you might be not recognized. This is not inclusive. And the digital identity is similar. Is similar to that one. Inclusive means it has to work for really everyone and not working, so someone is excluded. And And Women in Identity has also set up some research on this topic over the last years. It's a research project which has started 4 years ago, something like that, 4 or 5 years ago. It's a long-term, several years research project. It has various phases. Currently, we are in phase 4. And the first...
Can you share more about the research and the main findings?
Yes, the research. And in the first phase, it had been just looking into how should I say it, to define the topic to work on. So what does it really mean to have inclusive digital identity? This was more or less the first phase. The second phase was to talk to people who had been excluded and to find patterns, why they had been included. And I think this is interesting. This is always the same. As I said before, minorities in that sense, but nevertheless, it is then exclusion for people so that digital identities do not work. And in the third phase, this was a cooperation with the London School of Economics, and in that sense really a research project to look into the business impact if a digital identity is not working, which I think is a very, very interesting approach. So not only saying, we need inclusion because we need it for social, let's say, so on. No,
it has impact on it.
It has a business financial impact, and they could show it is still work in progress, and this is why I don't say any numbers, but they could show that being not inclusive or creating digital identities in various sectors leads to a decrease in GDP. And I found that really interesting, that it is also has a business impact.
Yeah. But in a way, it was kind of understandable is that it has also business impact. And I'm also curious because you started with Women in Identity 8 years ago. And if you are to compare how was viewed digital identity and what biases were then, and to compare them now when we say that people are more educated, that awareness has been raised, and that we know all this economical impact. Are there different? Are we making progress or? bias is still
it still exists, and the point is not that the people are not aware that it might get to decrease in business, but the point is that these systems are developed not with inclusion in mind. And what I mean with that, and what has also one of the outcomes of this research over the last years is the people who are developing these systems, they put it in their own group and their own environment. For example, there are you would say the user populations, the requirements are not drawn from various groups. This would be then showing some inclusivity, and also the testing is not done with a diverse group of people. And this means it is not because there is not understanding or some, how should I say it, also some restrictions or something like that. I think it is just we have done it always. The developers, so you should think about users as the diverse group, but you need to involve them in your software development thing. So we don't need new algorithms or something like that. We need to have done it properly and include really diverse groups in the development. And with diverse, I mean really not only different gender or so, but also the elderly people and people which are handicapped and for various reasons. And this variety of humans, you need to have this as a user group when you build your systems.
Maybe also cultural habits.
Yes.
But returning to your idea, not seen more in the just in the court of the developers or the technicians. I talked with Eve Mahler. Probably you know that she has been releasing a book on mastering digital identity, where she proposed this approach of digital identity seen as the whole product, something that you have to deliver so that it serves people, payments, productivity, also protection, security. So you have, if you see it from all the angles, all the facets, and not just a technological point of view, probably you can also achieve this idea of making work or different use cases.
This is not only true for this area, it is true for many.
Exactly.
If we are developing technical solutions, these have an impact on society in either way, and we see it at the moment with AI, but this is a different topic.
Oh, no, actually it's not, because you mentioned the AI topic. I was curious how, topics like AI and non-human identity might affect this idea of inclusion, because so far with what we had, it was difficult to achieve digital inclusion, and now we also have other technological solutions or complexity that need to be taken into account.
My point of view is really that we haven't even understood the problem properly.
Oh yeah, could be.
And as I said, I'm a mathematician by education, and the first thing as a mathematician is to understand the problem and to set up some definitions, or at least how you define it, and get it in there. And I think many people jump into solutions because before even understanding the problem property. So I think there is a lot of work to do in this AI environment. If you say I am for AI or I am for digital identity, which could be a good thing to support the development of digital identity with the support of AI, but nevertheless it's a two-folded thing, and we will have to work really strongly on that one and really deep get into that. And I don't know if you have been at the discussion this morning at 11 with Martin Kuppinger and Matthias Reinwart. And this was really a workshop, an open workshop, because nobody has answers at the moment. We have all ideas, more or less concrete, on how to deal with AI in our life, but we do not have any real standardized answers because the development had been so fast,
yeah.
which is not, how should I say it, in line with how this is usually done with setting standards, writing a standard in ISO or something like that can take up to 10 years. We don't have this 10 years.
We have this time span, yeah. But then again, you said that this Saturday you published a paper on agentic AI. Maybe you can give us some hints, some directions what the paper is about ahead of your presentation.
Ahead of of course, you can download it because it's published as a preprint. This is something where my co-author, a former colleague from IBM, Hari Hayagrivan, and we had been working together for a couple of times, or for a couple of years even, and we are getting, with the just released paper, into exactly that point, defining what we mean when we are saying purpose. What is purpose? What is intent in an agent? What is an agent identity? How does it have to be managed? Which requirements are there? How can I measure that the intent of an agent, which is we see as a runtime thing, how can I measure that this is consistent with the purpose, the initial thing when it was set up? So I have to match that and see that it hasn't deviated. How can I measure that? And these are some of the things. So in that sense, it is groundwork, I would say, just to say, okay, we define it as such. And if you define it as such, then you can derive a lot of requirements which must be fulfilled. But of course, for the fulfillment, we don't have the measurements at the moment.
Yeah.
We have the solutions. But at least this was our goal, really, to lay some sort of basement so that we can discuss properly what we want to achieve then. And in that sense, it is measurable.
Yeah. So you mentioned about this white paper. Then, when talking about how the whole story around AI might influence the digital identity space, and here you said that we need to understand the problem. So for people that want to be educated or to stay in the know in this space, what do you suggest they do? How can they get involved and continue learning?
Yeah, so how to get involved, it depends, of course, on the background these people are, so how far they are in their understanding of AI. And I feel like I'm a newbie in AI because my 40 years are in security and classical identity and access management, I would call, and non-human identities, NHIs, are classical identity. And agents are not classical identity. They are a little bit like quantum mechanics. So you have the classical physics and the quantum mechanics physics, and AI is pretty similar as an analogy to that one. You need to get into different spaces really to tackle that, because it is so scalability and autonomous and forking, and these are things which we generally know from humans and generally know from NHI, so non-human identity.
But we don't know them combined.
Exactly, and this is the point. And at a scale and velocity we never have experienced.
Oh yeah, the velocity and scale, exactly. Because now it happens so fast, you don't have time to reflect.
Yes, exactly. But you must reflect, and this is what we have done in the paper. We have go back to the roots, define really the basics, and the practitioners here might say, okay, and also for digital identity, really directly, it doesn't help them today. But I think it is the basis for vendors and also for the future, or is part of the basis to really tackle the right points then.
Yeah.
also from a digital identity perspective, and for example, the regulations, the EU AI Act or GDPR. So this has no one on the agenda at the moment.
Yeah. And since you mentioned tackling the right points, I'm curious, what topics do you think around inclusion and bias, do you think they deserve more attention at industry events? Or we need to talk more about at EIC, for instance, topics that you miss from the agenda?
From the agenda here?
Yeah, or
in general,
yeah.
On the agenda.
We need more awareness around them.
More awareness around them, really, that diversity or inclusion is not a byproduct or an end product. It has to be in the entire development of a solution.
Yeah.
And I have that said before, but I think this is the most important point, really, to include that from an ideal of something in so to have various perspectives on this thing what you want to develop then. And I think this is the best way to get to an inclusive solution.
Yeah. To make a comparison, let's say, with my journalistic editorial background, to have a good story, you need a narrative wire that follows the story throughout it till the end, that makes it enjoyable. So it's the same with the financial inclusion.
Yes, exactly.
To make digital identity work inclusive.
Yes.
And also bring economical benefits, since you mentioned GDP concern.
Like in every product, what you miss at the beginning will very costly in the end.
Yeah.
It's with every product.
Yeah.
So put more effort in the beginning.
Yeah.
Really in the beginning, getting all the requirements properly done. And I don't say that it helps in every case, but this is the basis. Without that, you will definitely have a non-inclusive digital identity with also losing some money.
Yeah. Thank you, Angelika, for today's discussion. I enjoyed it a lot and I took notes, and I hope we meet again at EIC.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today about these really, really exciting points.